Hey there, thank you very much for swinging by watching Juicebox TV. If you didn't catch it in the last week's episode, I did mention there'll be some sort of announcement in this one. And that is, in brief, because I like to babble a lot, we are looking to expand people who can host and edit this show. This is a great entry level opportunity to really pick up on skills such as editing and hosting a show, promoting, learning to write questions, all these sort of things that can really build up a skill for something that I do. And I say that like I'm a master, I'm really not. I'm still learning. But doing this show and handling these things and talking to these people and these guests and working alongside Juicebox has really helped to boost these skills. And because of that, I know it's definitely a career prospect which I definitely want to look into. Like I said, I don't want to babble too much, but if the thought of doing this interests you, please hit the link down in the bio for more. And when the role becomes open, all the information will be clear and it'll tell you everything you need to know. You're about to watch an episode of Juicebox TV. Thank you very much for watching. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the bell if you enjoy. Cheers, we appreciate it a lot. Good afternoon, mate. How are you?
Hello, yeah, not too bad, not too bad.
People who are watching who may not know, please introduce yourself. That'd be lovely, man.
Yeah, no problem. So I'm Ben. I'm basically the editor-in-chief of Vandalism Begins At Home fanzine. And in addition to the fanzine, record label and radio show and all bits of media pieces that we do. Fingers and many pies.
A lot. You just mentioned to me right before I hit record that you're real busy right now. What's happening?
Well, yeah, I mean, we just released the latest fanzine. So that's the 19th edition of Vandalism Begins At Home fanzine altogether. So that's 3 years now as well. So yeah, we just got that out. So obviously we work that out a little bit, get that amongst the socials and what have you. But yeah, it's never a dull moment in our world at the minute. So we're just prepping or pushing, should I say, the new Dois Padres album, which is out on the 5th of March. So it's all systems go with that now as well. It's funny because we sort of have a media role reversal where we spend loads of time on the fanzine by sort of promoting and interviewing ourselves, getting hold of different bands and the rest of it. And then all of a sudden we put on a different cap and it's time to contact other media outlets to hopefully give us a helping hand with the bands that we're on our label. So yeah, we've got that. Because like I say, the album's come out 5th of March, and we've got a couple of other projects in the pipeline as well. So there's always something going on.
Yeah, even without live music, I think it's great to still keep a pulse on the scene, even though it feels like there's not really a scene right now without the gigs. It's quite
Well, it's been a funny one really, because I don't think anyone knew what was going to happen. Well, obviously no one knew what was going to happen over the last year or so, or how long it was going to be. And obviously losing gigs, especially from the point of view for the fanzine. I mean, I think about a fifth of the fanzine was live reviews, so we instantly lost that content. But then it sort of opened up other avenues, because basically sort of discussing with bands how they were adapting and evolving. Even what we're doing now, this is something that you probably wouldn't have been doing had it not been for COVID. We were just saying before in the email exchanges and stuff how this is becoming a regularity of sort of everyday life now, Zooming. It's just how it is. It's how, but also with bands doing live streams, and I think it's all been sort of different. Thinking on your feet. It's no straight or reasonable substitute, is it, for live music, all those sort of things? But people got to do what they got to do. But it's like I say, it's I think the output though is almost gone up. I think bands have found. I mean, I was hearing I was listening to a few podcasts, and one thing that keeps sticking out to me was when they were asked how they find in recording and writing processes. And a lot of them are actually saying they're preferring it because rather than being in a rehearsal room and having 4 hours or 3 hours or whatever you got and you paid for, and trying to do your sets, you're actually getting time now to work on tiny little intricate parts of your songs, send them over. There's no rush. It's not like we want it gig ready for next week or whatever. I mean, obviously you and the band yourself. Have you found that? Change the sort of writing process?
It's you flipped on me well now. Never been asked something like this before. This is new to me.
I can't take my journalist out.
I was going to say, mate, after this, stop. Put on the back seat. No, just have one holiday for half an hour. But totally. Because I started this format with my band right at the start of the first lockdown, this sort of interview thing before I moved to Juicebox, and it was weird, but also it was quite cool to have my own management, my own goals, and to flex my own muscles and sort of see if I can get in that that safe amount of deep water. Like my feet aren't touching the bottom, but also I'm not drowning. You know?
Yeah, that's
Like
a good
I'm
way.
sort of like like dog paddling, maybe, yeah, sometimes, but like I'm still doing it. And like again, when it comes to things like rehearsing and like demoing new songs, we're just like, okay, there's no gigs, there's no deadlines, not paying for anything. Let's just take it easy and like build.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've gone up from, just say, I think on average, you'd have between 12 and 15 track reviews in the fanzine.
Yeah.
And the last one had 18.
Yeah.
So you'd think it'd be the other way around. All predictions would have been the other way around. You'd have thought music, there'd have been a slump. In truth, everyone seems to be busier. I suppose they've got more time. And also, it's if you're not being creative, I know there will be people that are struggling throughout this sort of period to get those creative juices flowing. But I think you've got the chance for ideas you maybe had before. You finally got time to really work on. So it's been a really interesting process. I've noticed watching how bands are coming through on it. It's going to affect what you're writing about. I was kind of dreading just getting like 20 lockdown blues, songs called Lockdown Blues or whatever. But I think, although it's affecting maybe some of the mood, especially with government decisions and things like that, there's a lot of anger for a lot of right reasons out there. So that's you can sort of hear that coming through in a lot of music. The people have actually really thought out of the box to the way it's affected their songwriting. It hasn't just been, I'm sitting in my room, I can't go outside, which, it's tempted, it probably, or like
I've
I say,
avoided it. I can't do it. I've had to avoid doing that. Yeah, it's just.
And it is a challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, like I say, it's mental, isn't it? I mean, last year, considering the world stopped, it was still like the most chaotic, busiest, and most turmoil we've probably had in in living history. So. Yeah, we're never really short of something to write about, have you, or some sort of to trigger your muse.
Yeah.
But as I say, it's I've been really impressed with how bands have responded to it, and equally how we responded to it, really, because if anyone don't know, we were a printed publication.
Yeah.
So part of our ethos, really, what we like to do was have it as print. Because it sort of encouraged people to go out to the venues, so you could go to Esquire's, you'd go to the Horn, places like that, and you'd find it on the bar, things like that. But obviously, with the pandemic, there's nowhere to put it.
Yeah.
And it was like, really irresponsible to encourage anyone to go out and get it as well. So it was almost overnight where we made the decision. Well, the decision was made for us, in all fairness, once the first lockdown came in. But we were pretty much ready to go to the printers with this, with the fanzine as it was. Everything stopped, and it was kind of like, well, what do we do now? But we just made the decision really quickly, within the space of a couple of days, basically sort of transferred it into sort of digital fanzine, and sort of explored what that could do as well. We didn't want to just make it like, it would just be as it was.
Pictures of the things, it
was kind of like, we'll actually explore the possibilities. What can you do online that we couldn't do with the printed publication, i.e. you could put tracks into it, you can have YouTube videos into it, things like that. So that's been a real plus side, actually. And I think it's kind of, as well, it's made us grow more on maybe how we use our social media and things like that, because it's been a complete necessity. Whereas before, we were very much about kind of almost sort of rogue guerrilla sort of way of distribution, which was in the printed form, which was completely out of vogue at the time. So, but yeah, I think it has been a success, and everyone responded to it really well. We're really happy with it.
Good.
Didn't expect it to be carrying on quite so long, obviously. I mean, the question for us now, I suppose, a little bit is kind of like, when normality, or close to normality as we can, regains, whether or not we will carry on digitally or go back to print, or maybe try and juggle the two, try and see if they can sort of coexist. Because I still like having it out in the wild. I like the fact that bands or punters who might be even coming through these towns. So I think people who live in our shires, in Hertford, but Northants, have become pretty familiar with it now. So they would probably still keep digital. Wouldn't really affect too much of our reach there, but I quite like the thought of support bands and people that they bring, picking it up and bringing it back to where they're from. it can show that there is, a lot going on here to be celebrated.
Yeah.
But yeah, but that's what I say. We have to work that out.
I mean, you brought up a great thing there. Like, just having like a physical music zine, that's just cool. You know what I mean? It's a cool feeling to actually like have like in your hand, like, oh look, here's some photos and some like, I know you put in some like poetry, you have submissions for online stuff. It's like here's actually like not just, oh look, here's this band you can see. It's, oh, here's this artist that isn't from around here, but we're chatting to. Oh look, here's this submitted poem. Here's some photography. It's like a total sum of parts every 2 months. And I love that. I really
Yeah,
do
that's
enjoy
something.
that.
Glad you picked up on that actually, because it's true. It's a real sphere of
Yeah.
the arts. That, I'm going a bit out of time there. I'm back in now.
Yeah, we're back.
Back in, and like I say, we could get poetry in it. The one that's out at the moment even has some short stories,
Yes.
like graphic novel kind of things, and and like I say, photography gets submitted to us. So we've got a core sort of group of us who write the abundancy of it. So like the reviews, I think it's important to keep that centralised, so it's coming from a central opinion. You can't just have everybody Tom, Dick, and Harry chipping in reviews, because chances are they'll want to review their mates anyway. So it's the best way of having some sort of non-biasism, and it still comes from then. So stuff like that comes from the VBH. Sort of like I say, central part. But then it's great, like I say, to get people involved with local poetry, things like that. And a lot of these people, I suppose everyone these days, you've probably got your own Instagram page and all that. But I think there is a different feeling, whether it be of recognition or, like I say, of reach, of having it in something that's not from your direct outlet. Being picked up by somebody else who's put it into a publication. I think it's something sort of a warm feeling a lot of people get. And we have to say we've done it for 3 years, and it was always from the off quite important to us to have this kind of sense of community about it. So it wasn't just us. It was like we always wanted it to be, have submissions, and with every single one, they grow more. And I'm always surprised, and it's always, and say people still getting involved who haven't got involved before, which is really good. Because that's the other thing. It's like, as I say, it's important for maybe the articles and some of the reviews to come from a BBH voice.
Yeah.
But nobody wants just us telling you what's out there all the time. You want to get, and certain things as well. Poetry. I know what I like and what I don't like. But I wouldn't say I was a particular expert on the case. Lockdown certainly didn't make me suddenly pick up my pen. I mean, I don't think I've wrote a poem probably since I was about 12. I think we all go through that.
Yeah, we all go through the black moleskin turtlenecks.
Yes. And there's just so much talent. I mean, sometimes as well, I'll be honest, I'm always on the lookout for it where a lot of the stuff, sometimes it's not even been submitted, because you do find with a lot of artists, some people, they don't know how good they are, or they're all fear of rejection as well. I mean, I think everyone has that to a degree. So I'm always looking out. I'm always scouting, really, as well, through social media and all the rest of it. And a lot of it, I will just, if I like it, I'll approach people as well. I think a couple of the poets in this one, I just saw them. It's like trending on my Instagram and the rest of it. Turned out they were local, and extended an invitation to get involved. Sometimes they say yes really excitedly at first, and then it gets closer to the deadline, and I think they might bottle it. But what they tend to find is then a friend of theirs might be in it, or someone they know on the scene, and then they realise, well, actually, do you know what? I shouldn't have been scared of that, and next time I'm going to go for it. And I think once people do submit or see their work in print, they get a taste for it. And they do. They just want that all the time. So it's like I say, it does sort of produce this sort of kind of, I suppose it joins the dots in many respects of not only the areas, but in terms of where we all live, shires as I've referred to it, but also the different types of art that we've got and the crossovers that brings. I think what I found as well is a band might see some photography or some art by somebody in it and think, do you know what, I'd really like to work with them. and you're finding that it's kind of like encouraging quite a lot of collaborations. And I think it's sort of, that's one thing I'm quite proud of. I think it's sort of sparked a little bit of community spirit and collaborations that I didn't even really have anything to do with, other than publishing both of these people's these work, and then off their own backs, sort of joined forces and things like that. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, no, I mean, I from my own personal experience there, I totally agree with that. Like you mentioned, my band, when I handed in our song, I was like nervous, sure, but I was like, okay, like let's see what happens. And when we got the feedback back or saw a review, I was like, that's a perfect review, because it's not like you're going, oh, this is don't you dare make music ever again. It's like you can do better than that. And it's like sometimes you need a little bit of a boot in terms of encouragement. You know what I mean? Like when I saw a review for me, it was like, for me, that was like a positive affirmation of like, okay, cool, we can ramp this up, and we can definitely like take what we will from that and use it in like a right way and forget that fear of rejection. You know what I mean?
I think that's a really good attitude. It's interesting you say that as well. Where I think friends of yours as well, Gellifant I think I gave him quite a constructive review as well. And they didn't even say thank me. Still, that's great. Still shared. It wasn't like, oh, we got an 8 in the last one, I'll share that. I only got a 6 or a 5 in this one, so I'm not. I think, and what you do get, we're not judged during execution. We do put in basically saying that, it's an opinion. And one that we are willing to stand by. And if you want to have a chat about it, and say you don't agree with it, I'm happy to tell you, whoever, which one of us wrote it, we'll be happy to have a conversation and say, this is why I said what I had. But as you just said there, I think with the style of writing, because you will get that from us that you probably wouldn't get on a broader scale of media, where they might just ruin you. They've got no tough love or anything, or it's not bothering them whether they encourage. But for us, I've got no, I don't take no pleasure in ripping someone's heart out in front of them. Why would you? Why would you? You know what I mean? Saying this is we'll always say what was good, what was so good. And I'll tell you, some of the stuff we get, you couldn't even find a fault with it, really.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. Obviously, I'll point out to anyone who maybe gets a less favourable review. It's like, be honest with yourself. Some of those bands you even know, and if just say they got a 7 or an 8 or whatever. Now you put your record up against theirs. Be honest with you and tell us that you're actually in the same area. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. They might be going 3-4 years longer than the band that got 5. Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, that's the difference as well. So sometimes we'll get sent stuff that it's probably a bit rushed.
Yeah.
Some bands can be quite eager. So I think we live in an age at the minute where people are there's a real fast pace. It used to be.
It was totally a SoundCloud thing.
To get once upon a time to get a record out, you got a contract, or you put a load of money together. You got a physical release. Now we could record a song over Zoom right now if we wanted, and put it out on Spotify, and just say it was our single. So there can be a quality control issue sometimes. Whereas what is now called a single, once upon a time was called a demo.
Yeah.
So if you're putting that out, as a single, or even like say submitting it for review, people do have to obviously be prepared for it to be reviewed on its merit.
Yeah.
But as I say, we I think generally speaking, I can't think of too many where we've really gone for the jugular, unless something so almost insulting or whatever, for whatever reason. But otherwise, I think, like I said, what you will get with us is, because all we want to do really is encourage. We want bands to improve.
Yeah.
But telling a band, if we were all just happy clappy and just saying, they're local and we support them, they're great, then no one would ever get any better.
Yeah.
You'd never improve. I like the fact that maybe if I say, whether it be me or whoever might give them a review that's, a bit shaky or whatever, or has a fair few criticisms in it, that band will come away and go, we're going to next one we're going to put out, we're going to make sure it's better. Because like I say, if we tell everybody, oh, you're fantastic, then there's no room for improvement. And but as I say, it's we want, great, wouldn't it, if every band in the around hopefully could absolutely smash it, and hopefully, and there is loads of talent. at the minute. There's so much. I mean, I get frustrated when you hear people talk about there not being any good music around, full stop. I mean, it's just madness.
Yeah.
But even just locally alone, you know, I find myself, you know, obviously I play a lot of local music because obviously I'm invested in it, if you will. But a lot of the bands, like Gaelic, Exploding Ear Ensemble, Luna Rosa,
Yeah.
I'd play them anyway.
Yeah.
You know, and there's so much talent, and it keeps coming through all the time. So it couldn't really be a better time to be what I think what we're doing, because in abundance. Yeah, I mean, I do remember like being probably teenage or whatever around Luton, what have you, and it was kind of like, you know, somebody from work, whoever would say, "I'll come and see me band," and they would be doing 5 Oasis covers and then about 3 songs that sounded a bit like Oasis. And you couldn't really tell the difference. And then that was kind of it, really. There was a lot of that going on. And I think now with I think the internet and what have you, it's really shown people how much music's out there, that you can investigate music from all walks of life and all different eras. Has really widened people's sort of, like say, influences.
Oh, there he is. I heard him for the past few minutes. There we go.
Here we go.
Hello.
And you can really tell the difference. Like I say, lately in sort of modern bands and local bands, especially like within you can't take it seriously now, can you? Even like technology.
Keep going.
I mean, some of the stuff we get sent, and you'll be like, you know, where did you record this? And they're like, well, in my bedroom, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, and it is that thing now where you can, like you say, really go with what you want to do. Do you mind?
It was building up. You heard it for the last few minutes. It was coming to that moment. It had to happen.
You see me like that. She'll be back. She will be back. So I've been gobsmacked by some of the recordings that you get. Like I say, it turns out they're all doing it all on their own. I think, like I say, that relates back to really what we were talking about in terms of throughout the pandemic, why I suppose a lot of singles, not releases, hasn't dropped off as much as we thought or it would do. Or in fact, it seems to have picked up in many respects. Because you can do that. I mean, if we couldn't file share and we couldn't even Zoom and all the rest of it, it'd be a very different scene right now, wouldn't it? We would all literally just be waiting around scratching. So, yeah, I think in a way, I suppose technology's kind of saved us this year.
Is it kind of going to happen? Or are you getting away? Getting our way?
She's looking at me really sad.
Oh, what are you doing? It's fine. It's all right. You can get all the attention you want soon, I promise. I'll leave you dad alone in like 10 minutes.
This dog can never have too much attention.
What? What are you looking at, huh? What?
Stop barking at yourself in a minute. But I think it's like even
go on.
Earlier about it's too distracting. You're just too cute.
You are adorable. Cute. You really are.
Still just gonna keep. As I was saying before, we got we look, you know, as a label we've got Sourdough, who you interviewed not that long ago, didn't you?
Yeah, I was going to mention them. Yeah.
And then and we've got Dois Padres, you mentioned earlier, and like Dois Padres, they're a band that they record everything themselves.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they do everything. Yeah, Danny, is a bit of a. Danny's one of them weirdos who's just constantly like making his own instruments and makes his own. Like, he just put like pull apart the toaster and turn it into an amp. You know, and I'm not kidding. It's like
that's incredible. Like,
it's like, it really is. And and I mean that's like saying that it works. That works for them recording their own stuff, because I think it's one of them where they know what they want to sound like.
Yeah.
And he knows exactly how to get it. You know, whether what did he do? I'm sure he even had a rubber duck that doubled up as an effects pedal.
Oh my god!
Like, you know what I mean? I say so. I've never sort of ceased to be amazed or blown away by, I say, some of the talent and what we have locally. There's a few real kind of sort of hidden mad geniuses amongst us, I think.
Totally. It all takes development. This whole thing is all about development. And it's like, again, like you're questioning what you're going to do, if you're going to keep it, digital or make it physical again. That's all part of development too. Like no one's ever truly a master of the craft. I feel there's always so much to learn.
Oh, yeah.
Always.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. As much as I say about the development or how we encourage that with others, it rings true for us as well. We've got, I'd like to say, we've got better at doing it. I remember the first, and I've got all the editions, obviously, and I was looking through them the other day actually, and yeah, you can definitely see an evolution. Right. I mean, the first one was probably half the size of what it is now.
Mad.
What it was probably by third or fourth, and it was definitely more. It had a very kind of like DIY 70s punk kind of feel, the old sort of fanzines. I think you picked up there before you actually had publisher and stuff. So it looked like it'd come straight out of 1979, which kind of works.
Yeah.
But it wasn't actually a stylistic choice. It was just more that we didn't. That was as good as we could make it at the time. I mean, and that was a big. I mean, in our own development, so it started off just me and Spike.
Yeah.
Neither which, although we've got a good ear for music and good journalistic skills, neither of us were particularly apt at sort of creating, things like say with Desktop Publisher and things like that. That Word was about as good as we could get, and we just sort of tried to dress it up from there.
Yeah.
And then we got John West joined our ranks, which really took us up a level. I think but certainly in presentation and how I actually it started to look how I visioned it. In my head how I actually wanted to look, because John's actually a graphic designer.
Yeah.
By trade, completely understood where we were coming from, and then sort of foolishly offered his services for free one day. I think probably meaning I'll give you a bit of a helping hand if you need. I'll give some advice. Before he knows it, now he gets about 48 pages sent to him before he comes out, and we go, yeah, nice one, John. Sort that out.
You just roped him into it completely.
Yeah, but then that's the thing. I mean, like I say, obviously, I wouldn't have thought it needed point now, but sometimes you'd be amazed that people don't realise this isn't our job. So yeah, there's no money to be made in this whatsoever. It's only ever cost us money. I mean, if I tallied it up, God knows how much in the red we'd be, but it's worth it. You know what I mean? The way I always see it was kind of like, if you had a gym membership, you would still be, that's something you'd be paying for, but you'd be enjoying it, or whether you were paying to be part of a club or your season ticket, football, or whatever it is, what would be your buzz, your hobby. The cost that it would be what we used to pay out for printing, the cost we pay out, for travel and things like that to get to the places, get to the gigs, and even the gig tickets themselves.
Yeah.
Because we very seldom have used to really ask to get it for nothing. I always felt a bit cheeky about that, but yeah, it was kind of like, do you know what? It's worth everything that comes with it.
Totally.
Yeah, it was just like almost to say, I think, when John sort of signed up, when I hoodwinked him into joining, even then I was kind of like, well, we can't really offer you much. You might get into a gig occasionally for free. Certainly we'll get into our own ones for nothing. We put our own shows on. And I said, no, what about it really? But you'll get a real sense of achievement every now and then, and you'll meet lots of wonderful people. I mean, that's been a big thing of it. I mean, my people even I consider friends now as well. Like say people like Sourdough and God knows how many bands of people that really I only knew because I've walked up to them after they played one day, handed a fanzine and said, I'm going to be reviewing you. Look out for the next one.
Good luck.
They sort of look at me like I was an absolute lunatic. Like, what is this? And then like I say, then once they were in it or they'd look us up, sort of realise what we were about. I think it's kind of, I think any band, especially like from our scene, if you will, it's difficult to sort of not get on board. I mean, it used to be sort of met with suspicion, especially in the early days. But there was a time where I'd be going to people like, "Oh, do you want to send a poem in?" And they'd be like, "Why the hell would I do that? What are you on about? For what?" So people, we had to prove ourselves, and that was proved with consistency. Because obviously, one as well, you could have said, "Oh yeah, I'll send something to you, or I'll write for you," but you wouldn't know. We could have had some really mental political agenda people weren't aware of. or anything. So yeah, it was just about being consistent. And I know, and I see it a lot, and I know a lot of people see it. Lots of people have big ideas, and they put them out there, and they say, "I need people to get involved with this. It's going to be amazing." Blah blah blah. Whether it be some festival idea they've got in their heads, or some gig, or like say, well, "I'm starting a radio show. I'm starting a podcast. Send me your stuff." But then you never hear anything ever again. You're like, well, "What happened there?" But they were happy to take all the plaudits and all the pats on the back, and they were good for yous, and then you don't actually ever really see any fruits from it.
Right.
I mean, that's at least something I can stand by, and BBH can stand by. There's consistency, with the sort of continue to deliver. I've say for 3 years now, sort of embedded itself, I suppose, in the kind of slightly into the psyche of the local scene, which is a bit mad, but it was from very much, like I say, from humble beginning to it's still very, very humble now.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, I forget sometimes that how much suspicion it was met in the early days. People certainly weren't sending anything to me, And I say, yeah, just going round, and it was as well of, I think how it sort of started. What was important was, especially myself, I got my face around a lot.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I was just messaging or dropping a band a message and saying, "Hi, do you know what I mean? Do you want a review or what have you?" I would find out where you were playing, and I'd go and I'd introduce myself, which makes an enormous difference, in terms of trust. Because I mean, sure you know yourself from being in the promotion game and obviously on the in the band, is you get baseless messages promising you the world and things all the time. I think a big one at the minute, once again, obviously because of the pandemic, a lot of these places are struggling to make money how they used to probably rip you off. So the new one is kind of like, send us your songs, we'll play them on the radio. We've got 35,000 reach, and then you do all the bands do all that, send it all in, and then obviously you get told, right, that's
it's
great.
It's just the pyramid scheme of
exactly, yeah, exactly. And I think that's been one of a big sort of positives, and one of the main things for our momentum is that there's no catches at all. It purely is, as soppy as it might sound, it purely is just a bunch of music fans and art fans that just want to help and support, as much of the talent as we can.
Yeah.
And I know it does. I mean, I remember the early days having a couple of meetings with a few sort of, I say meetings, like unofficial kind of go for a pint with some people that were more involved in kind of the actual council end of things. They'd started to sort of take notice of us.
Yeah.
And so they were kind of like, we want to have a chat with you, see basically how we can probably use you. And I remember being an early meeting with an institution, which I won't name now.
But... Yes.
And they basically said, how do you fund it? Was the big question. There was about 5 of them sitting around, and it's me.
Wow.
How do you fund it? I said, well, we pay for it. And they're like, what do you mean you pay for it? I'm like, yeah. I said, me and Spike, we take it out of our wages, and that's it. I said, we're hoping to start putting maybe some adverts in, and that might help Chip to. I said, but even then, it'll be adverts, but only for gigs, only for record shops. Only stuff that makes sense within the pages.
Yes.
The same sort of thing. And then they were like, all went a bit quiet, looked at me for a while, and eventually just sort of said, that's very commendable, but you're mental. And they couldn't understand. This was an arts charity type council institution, and they basically said they couldn't understand basically why we would do it when it was costing us money. Which is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like just, but yeah, so it was like, why would you do it? It was almost like it's better, to do it, not do it, rather than do it if it's costing you money. And I could never, and that kind of really actually, I mean, that was quite in the early days.
Yeah.
That always really, really stuck with me. It actually galvanised me a lot, to be honest. It was kind of like, one, it was a lesson that I didn't want to get in bed, so to speak, with organisations like that.
Yeah.
And it showed me that a lot of those type of organisations, if you will, are kind of, it's just a job, isn't it, really? You know what I mean? And when the laptop goes down at 5 o'clock, I'm not sure how much sometimes they really do care about grassroots and what have you. And it does get left up to, the likes of ourselves, Juicebox, people like Gareth Barber, Esquires, Blender, all these people that all started or really relying on some of their own parts and their own talents and the networks that they produce to keep these things afloat.
Yeah.
Amount of effort had to obviously gone into to somewhere like the Horn over the years. Had its ups and downs, and obviously what we're experiencing now.
Literally.
Luckily, obviously, a lot of funding come through sort of further down the line, but for such a big institution, and music and how important the arts are, and in fact, how much the industry does actually bring into the country, the fact that we were all having to basically bail it out ourselves. You know what I mean? It came down to music fans to put your hands in your pockets to help these places out. It's kind of, it's ludicrous, isn't it, really?
Yeah. It shouldn't be that. I mean, like, you've touched on like a really valid point, especially when it comes to things you do and I do here. To really do it, you have to understand, like you said, there isn't money in this at the beginning or for a hot minute. Like, really, it comes down, it's so cringy to say it comes down for you wanting just to cultivate life and music culture. That's what it is. It's really you just putting yourself as part of, like, don't want to say the narrative, I think that's the right word, but certainly in that bubble of just saying, like, okay, here's where I can function within all this, and I know I can contribute. And even though I know it's not really paying, if you can do it and like with a healthy amount of stress and still afford to live as like a member of society, awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
You're not killing yourself over it. Do it. Like, you got to remember chatting. I mean, so many nearly every artist, and it never gets boring when they say it because it's so true. Because even I need a reminder. Everyone needs a reminder. Like, you just have to keep going if you really want it sometimes. Like, it's not going to be a case of one day you're going to wake up and it's going to go on your lap.
Not a chance, if ever. Especially, at the moment where, record sales are non-existent.
Well, yeah.
Anyway, the way the pyramid, if you will, for how bands and artists and labels and things make money
now.
Yeah. It is, yeah. It's and that's even. I don't think people fully understand the margins that promotion and venue, work on either. You might think, okay, it might be full, but after the bands have been paid, and even then, that money that they've been paid, if it's covering their costs, they're doing well.
Yeah.
It is such fine margins, and that's with social distancing gigs and things like that, where it's great that something was happening. Hopefully we'll get back to that sooner than later. But it's not workable. It's not viable to exist. You can't slash, your attendance and ticket by almost 50%, maybe more. Because it was margins were so fine in the first place. So we've gone really from, because that's what people forget. It's an industry on a pastime or whatever you want, where it was struggling anyway.
Yeah,
it's so difficult. And I mean, it's a political now, but it's a Tory. It's a Tory opinion anyway, and it has been for a long time.
Yeah.
That music and art is something that you do as a hobby, and that's it. You don't make money from it, and it's because it's something you can do. How can you charge for that? Painting, how can you charge for that song? Because it's almost a talent. It's a talent they don't recognise and they don't care about. I mean, like I say, it is a £1 billion industry, and they've shown that they still have got no consideration for it whatsoever because they don't understand it. They haven't got a clue about it. They do not understand how it works. I think they've got some maybe grasp on the real top end of your stadium figures, and everything's sort of been based around that.
Yeah.
Rather than thinking about how many people in the smaller grassroots venue and even between. And that's really been shown, I think, in like the sort of post-Brexit touring visas. Now that is going to really, really jeopardise so many bands and the things that you'd normally be trying to get away, trying to tour. Because I know before the freedom movement, you basically used to have in the 80s. Now, that's not me showing my age. I am actually young for being here, just so you know, but I just know about it.
Yeah, right. Not judging you.
On freedom of movement, you basically had to, when you go to the border, you have to basically list absolutely every item that you've got. And I'm talking every item, guitar strings. You know what I mean? Your picks, like everything has to be on this list. Now, if it's not on the list, then you might end up having to pay to get it across.
Yeah.
So across border control. What you also have is border control. It's basically what we're going back to. So since we were in Europe, what have you, freedom of movement, you didn't have this. This is basically what we're going straight back to.
Yeah.
So, but you don't just have to just cross border control. You do it on both sides. So they have to go through everything to get you out. So when you're leaving the country, and then obviously once you're then in the new one, you have to do it again.
Yeah.
So everything's declared that you're in. So now just say you've got to be on stage, or we've got sound check at 6 o'clock, and you're going through
You're stuck.
Yeah, you know what I mean. It's and also, I mean, I saw a quote the other day. So this was for Holland,
Right.
and just Holland. They wanted is £250 for visa per musician, right? So just say you're a 5-piece band, of any level, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Let alone, maybe a self-funded or an independent artist. You're paying £250 per head to get in, and that's even, like I say, all your equipment and everything aside. And what really makes me angry is that the EU actually offered 90-day travel visas.
They did. I remember seeing
that. The UK government rejected it.
Yeah.
Because it would have been in contrary to the manifesto that they put across of us regaining our borders. So, you know what I mean? It's not even black and it's like, actually, it's not even, and that's just facts. It's not even like you have to read into it or think what's their agenda. They've actually come out.
They've flat out said.
Oh, yeah. Even the dog's up there now, look. Yeah, basically. So it's never been, basically going full circle, how it's never been more difficult.
Yeah.
Local artists and for local venues. And I mean, I think post Brexit was always going to throw up these issues. And like I say, without, we've got to be realistic that things were tough beforehand. Trying to make a real serious point.
I'm trying. I'm just like focusing on you. It's
and obviously the pandemic has basically supercharged these issues even more so, because at least there could have been some sort of element of survival where things without the pandemic, you still at least had incomes. We're talking about a whole industry, all these venues, just had the food taken out of the mouth. It's crazy. It's going to be really. It's borderline crippling, if not already there. It's almost it's frightening to see the decimation of what we might be left with.
I don't. When I saw that news, especially when I read about the EU actually offered it, I was just like, oh my god, they haven't even hit it this time. It's like I was supposed to be. I doubt it's going to happen anyway because of like the pandemic. I was supposed to be going to Mad Cool this year in Spain, and it's like a fair amount of British acts on that bill, like some big, some medium level, but enough to like where they tour internationally and they pull good crowds at festivals. And I'm thinking, am I even if Rona wasn't a thing, would I even be? Are they even going to play? Probably not.
Yeah. Well, that's it. As I was saying before as well about how record sales has been non-existent. Touring is actually how bands make their money nowadays.
That's what it is. Touring and if you're lucky, merch.
That's why, merch being there, because that's the thing. Now you get put up for what they call a tri record deal. Yeah. So, or basically, your merch and your touring money used to be yours because the record label basically took all your sales really to pay for whatever you used to record it. And then once you probably had about 2 or 3 hit albums, you might start seeing some of that money back. But obviously, there's no record sale, so now you sign basically probably about a third of your merch and your touring venue away as well. And so it's just like, if you can't tour, or certainly, get out abroad, and this is the thing as well, Europe, they absolutely love English music, and they love the bands making the effort to going out there. So it's kind of like, even, bands are going to need, there's never been a time more that once there is some slight normality, where they've had a year or more of all those losses, and then you're coming back to it, and then thinking, well, how am I supposed to even begin to claw it back?
It's heartbreaking.
The venues are going to be, let's say, 60% less capacity, and I get that. That's in the safety. That's fine, but then even when things trigger back into normality, you can't take it on the road, or I don't know.
It's heartbreaking. I mean, also, like, it sucks to me that so many small bands who are going to go bigger audiences aren't going to experience European crowds. If you go on YouTube and look up any European festival, the crowds are incredible. Like, on like Belgium or Spain, or Germany's always top notch. Like, just great. Like, you can feel it through the screen, or like just like a live video, just like they care. Like, people are happy. These are happy people having a happy moment. And it's like they won't be able to deliver that happy. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just...
no, definitely, yeah. It's just bizarre. I mean, over the weekend, the Cure at Hyde Park was on Sky Art, and I went to that, and I remember got a few messages from people. I went to it at the time, and they were like, "Oh, they're playing that show." I couldn't watch it because I thought it'd be too depressing to see all these people in the sunshine. And even when I see like clips of like something like Reading Festival or whatever on Facebook, and I have to go scroll past it at the minute.
Yeah,
it just feels weird. It's like, it's just, I feel like heartbroken kind of thing. It's like a piece of us has been taken away. And I mean, like I say, the fact that, it must be mad to have been a band, I don't just mean a new band, but a band that maybe is just going on over the ridge last year, or in 2019, if you will, that were probably on the edge of starting to play, it was their time or their moment. And then just had that completely robbed from them. Yeah, just taken. And obviously, that's something that can't be helped in many respects, obviously, because no one saw bloody virus coming. But just to then, not just completely every single decision that's been made regarding the industry since then, it's just been like more and more, just like say, desecrating of it. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
So, and it's a big concern. And I mean, that's as well. I mean, we're sort of coming almost full circle back to the zine and Juicebox and what have you. Is that people forget, and certain governments forget, that your top end acts, your top end artists, your stadium artists, things like that. Everyone once upon a time, pretty much, was a local artist.
Yes.
Once upon a time, that's where you cut your teeth. Some would have done it for longer than others. Obviously, there's certain artists that it probably took one breathtaking moment for someone to go, that's it, and off you go. But generally speaking, without your local. Because local promoters, in many respects, I mean, they get a bad rap as well, I think, once again, because people think they're making more money than they are, when they're probably not even taking away themselves. So they after everything said and done.
Not a lot.
There is that is actually a real common misconception. There are, and that's one of them, though, as well, where the bad out there, unfortunately, bad experiences overshadows how many people out there are actually genuine with it. But as I say, it's without grassroots, without these places to play, where's the next wave going to come from? Where's talent going to be nurtured? It's like, are we going to be missing out on so many classic moments, classic songs, classic artists? It shouldn't be that, just like, God bless his soul, but like, the fact that an old man, Captain Tom, had to walk around his garden in order to fund the NHS. It's the same. We shouldn't have them to be doing everything we need to do to save music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The people who, we pay towards, part of my, whether it be your taxes and all the rest of it, it's just also to safeguard these things. And it's like, the fact they just don't care, basically.
Yeah.
And it is down to, unfortunately, it's come down to people, like I say, the promoters, people like ourselves. You just got to flog it and do all you can. And people forget, like I say, we've all got we've all got jobs. You know what I mean? We've all got, whether it be children and or other things to do. And it is like a second job. It's the same with like being a promoter and things like that. It's it takes up so, and it is a passion. Don't get me wrong, But you're playing your part.
Yeah.
But the top end aren't playing theirs. So you're kind of like in this dinghy, aren't you? Which is like
Yeah.
a bucket.
We're not in the same boat. I jumped off. I'm on the little like rubber dinghy. Like you're on the same boat. I'm just here like freezing in the ocean. Like
It's a bit of a sorry state of affairs, and it's worrying, very worrying times.
Yeah.
And, I mean, all we can hope is really that I think there hopefully should be a renaissance with people's interest with music and with arts, and there might be a bit of a different attitude when it comes going to gigs where after spending a year and a half or whatever it will be by the time of not being able to go places, I think that hopefully might be a resurgence of people going, do you know what? Absolutely. I'm actually going to go to that gig. Whereas before I might go, I'm tired. I mean, it's like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. So it hopefully should be at least a renaissance and re-energized interest in live music and certainly maybe at a local level.
And that'll benefit.
Hopefully, we'll put a big influx of much needed cash injection.
Oh yeah, and also that'll benefit you as well because, like, no doubt, Vandalism are going to be doing good off that too because there's going to be so much new art for people to like. Because by this time, there'll be their influx. More people will know about you. More people will send in music and poetry, so on and so forth.
I think, in a weird. I've got to be careful how I put this. In a weird way, the pandemic's not done us any harm. That's not like we've sort of, we've not, as in BBH, as in our name, I could say, put out of context. That's like, hold on a minute, sort of profiteering. But in a weird, and I think that was really down to the fact that we just got on with it.
Yeah.
So I think maybe if people weren't aware of us. I think I was talking to Faz, the producer Faz, who does basically stuff, he does everybody at the minute, doesn't he? And I remember him saying like he spent first sort of year almost of BBH being a thing, going, why can't I find this on the internet? And for some reason he just never realised it was only a printed publication. Wow. So at least say with this year, we didn't skip a beat. So we were doing it. It's a bi-monthly publication. And then as soon as this hit, we've hit every single same deadlines as we would have done before. And I'll be honest, I think a few people sort of alluded to me, like said, we would have understood if you'd have just said, we'll wait and see what's happening. But I mean, in terms of our peers and other organisations, where we were lucky, if you can say that, about just getting on with it, is we've got the media outlets that could. If you were just primarily, I mean, we put gigs on as well, but it's like if you were just primarily a promotion company who did live music, it's a lot more difficult to work out what you were going to suddenly bounce into because that's what you do. So you can be forgiven for going, especially with information that was available at the time, you can be forgiven for going, well, we'll see where we're at in a month. We'll see where we're at in another month. And before you know it, you've done 6 months. And you've kind of, you've not really been out there. Your socials have gone still and things like that. Whereas with us, it was a case of all we do is report on what's going on. And I mean, that's testament to the local scene that if there's nothing to write about, then that would have been a struggle. But in truth, there's always, and that's like I say, I'm always in awe of how much is going on. And I think the effort of, like I say, how many local bands have been kicking on and how many artists, and I think although it's the biggest struggle for me was just trying not to I think in the first one when the pandemic hit I banned coronavirus metaphors in all the reviews because no one needs to read 14 no one wants to read 14 reviews that all allude to the thing, but it's been finding the balance with that actually. You can't act like it's not happening. But at the same time, no one wants to read 48 pages of saying
literally
doom and gloom. So we tried to sort of juggle that, where it's kind of like, so there's bits and pieces that we're not ignoring. Like in the latest one, we talk about, say, the touring visas, and we talked a bit about, have articles about whether the government decisions and things like that. And then in amongst that, there's plenty of sort of, hopefully anyway, sort of humour and positivity as well.
I've had a great laugh. I want to keep talking more. but I don't want to hold you up any longer. Where can we find you? The radio station, design, everything. Tell us.
Yeah, so go to vbah.co.uk. That'll be the best one. And obviously, you've got socials: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Vandalism Begins At Home, and you'll find easy links and everything there that you need to keep you up to date.
Thank you very much, mate. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Juicebox Live TV. Like I said at the start, if the thought of hosting or editing this show, potentially both, really interests you and wanting to work alongside us at Juicebox, please hit the link in the bio below. It will tell you everything you need to know. Until then, stay safe, be good, see you next week.